Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be building and assembling a flower box with a lattice panels in it for privacy, and we're going to have plants actually growing up there for additional privacy. We are going to miter the corners so that we have a nice clean cut. We're going to nail it all together, and then we're going to install it into this flower box. Alright, so let me go inside. I'll show you what tools we're going to need, and let's get started. And here's an example of what kind of tools we're going to be using to get this job done. I'm not endorsing any of these tools. These just happen to be the ones that I'm using. We're going to use a chop saw such as this to miter the corners so that we get a nice clean corner. Of course, we're going to need an air line, an air tank to power our brad nailer, which is a different size nails you can install in it. We have an assortment of nails. We did buy the lattice panel and this box. The box was already assembled, the planter box I should say. The lattice panels now, we're going to have to cut those down to the size that we need, and then we're going to put these on the side. And again, we're going to cut these to the size we need too, because we need it all to fit inside the existing flower box that we have. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside the flower box itself. We're going to measure the inside opening so we make sure that we cut the lattice panel to the exact size so it fits inside it. Now we know it's 37 inches, so we're going to mark off 37 inches along the panels themselves. And once we have the marks on the panels, then we're going to come in here and we're going to mark probably 3 or 4 down the entire length of it. We'll draw a straight line once we make all of the marks on here, and then we'll come in here and we'll cut it to the desired width. Next, we're going to grab our circular saw and we're going to cut along that line and follow it all the way up to the very top. Alright, so cover your ears, we're going to start cutting. Next, we're going to measure the height that we wanted to have the entire panel inside the flower box itself. So we're going to measure our height. Remember, we're going to measure it, put a mark on it. We're going to put like probably 4 marks across the entire panel itself. And then we'll come in here with some kind of a straight edge, whether it's a ruler, a yardstick, a piece of wood, whatever you have. We're going to draw a line across it. And then once we have the line drawn across it, we're going to grab our circular saw and then we're going to cut across. Now I just want to point this out. We're going to be cutting across where the lattice panel is nailed together. We may hit some staples in there, but we'll see how it goes as we start the project. All right, so let's grab the saw and let's make our cut. All right. Next, we're going to take our ends and we're going to lay them down. We're going to put a mark on here of a 45-degree angle. Now, this is not exact. We're going to bring it over to the chop saw and we're going to cut it in the chop saw so it's exactly at the 45-degree angle. So that way, both the top and the sides line up exactly. We're just putting these marks on here now approximately so we can bring it over to the saw and know what angle we're going to be cutting everything on here. And of course, the width and the length has got to be determined as well. Next, we're going to adjust our miter saw or a chop saw to the 45-degree angle that we need. We'll grab our piece of wood that we're going to cut, we'll lay it in there, and we'll line it up approximately to the line that we have on there. We'll make our cut, and then we're going to flip it over and we'll make the cut on the opposite side as well. And of course, we're going to trim it down to length. All right, so let's make all these cuts and we'll get back over to the lattice panels. Next, we're going to lay out all of the panels that we had cut, and we're going to make sure that the ends all line up exactly as we wanted them at that 45-degree angle. Next we'll come up to the top and bottom of the project here. We're going to make our 45-degree lines, and remember it's just approximate. We're going to do it exactly in the saw to the 45-degree angle once we make the cut. But this way here we know we make the cut exactly where we need them to be. So let's mark this off, and then we're going to come in here and we're going to make that cut. This is why we put the marks on here now, because when you come over to the saw, you want to make sure you cut it exactly the right length. All right, so let's get our marks. Line it up where we want it, put our marks on it, and then we'll bring it over to the saw, and we'll make our final cut for that part. Next, we're going to lay out the lattice panel, and we're going to lay on our pieces. We're going to pull the 45-degree angles fairly close, and we're going to put a brad nail in it to hold it in place while we go and we push everything together and make sure that the ends meet up correctly. You want to make sure you use a brad that's not going to go too far through. In this particular case, we're using a 1-inch brad because it'll nail through both sides of it until we turn it over, and we can put the other wood on the other side and we can nail it nice and tight. So we're just going to pull everything close together before we nail the entire project together. We're going to make sure we have a nice tight fit on each one of the corners, and then we're going to continue on down until we get everything nailed up loosely. Now once we have all the corners nailed together with the 45-degree angles are nice and tight, now we can go and we can nail the lattice panel into all of the points so they'll be nice and tight on that one side. Just so you know, I'm actually putting 2 brads per lattice panel that are going through, just so you know. And then we'll continue around the whole project until we have it all nailed up tight, and then we're going to flip it over and we'll continue on the other side. Next, we'll lay out all of our wood where it's going to be. We'll cut it to size. After it's cut to size, we're going to lay the whole project out, and we're going to take our nailer and we'll nail everything back together on the other side now. We're going to make sure again that we get our corners nice and tight. We want to make sure they're nice 45-degree angles there, so that's where we're going to nail it first, on the corners. We'll catch our corners nice and tight, and then we'll proceed down the whole project and nail it up nice and tight. Once it's all put together, we're going to make sure our corners are all nice and tight. Everything looks pretty good. And it looks perfect. All right, next thing we're going to do is lift it up. Let's put it inside to the flower box itself, and we'll attach the lattice panel to the box itself. Now, if you have to shim it up with any wood on the inside so that you don't have any gaps, now would be the time you want to do it. Make sure you use an adequate size nail so that you're not putting in a nail that's too short and not going through. As I said, you can change. I have an assortment of nails that we're using. Some of them are 1 inch, others are 1.5 and 2 inch. So make sure you use the appropriate nail for the job that's going to be nailed in. And you can see here I'm using a 2-inch nail or brad nail, so that way it'll go through the entire project and hold it nice and tight, and it'll be just about done. All right, so let's nail it up and we'll continue. So once our panel is now nailed in there nice and tight, we did add some weight inside the box itself, so that way it's nice and stable and the wind won't blow it over. We put some rocks in the bottom of it. Next we'll put our planter inside, we'll fill it with dirt, and then we'll have our privacy panel that we wanted. And we're going to build a second one for additional privacy, and then we'll plant our plants in it, and it'll be a nice privacy screen. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.